mathstutor.biz and mathsdvds.co.uk. Foundation Mathematics. Lesson 3, Part 3. And in this algebra lesson we're going to be talking about variables, terms and expression. What is a variable? What is a term? We've already met expressions, but we'll repeat what is an expression. Well, first, the word variables. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, but it doesn't have to be a letter, for something that can change. For example, S. A car was travelling at speed S. Well, that could be anything. It could be 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, 70 kilometres an hour, maybe a Lambo doing 200 and something miles per hour. But S can be lots of different values, so it's a variable. Another example, the cost of a CD is C. Well, the cost of a CD could be £3 or £4.78 or £9.99 or virtually anything. Well, actually anything, I suppose. So C could have many values. So C is a variable. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, for something that can have many different values. Continuing with the topic of variables, let's go back and look at this question that we actually saw in the last part. Tom sells P pencils at 12p each. So the number of pencils times the cost of each pencil, P times 12 or 12 times P, which is written like that, this is 12 times P, is how much money he gets for his pencils. R is the number of rubbers that he sells, and they're each 3p each. So if you multiply the number he sells by how much they cost, R times 3 or 3 times R, that is how much money he gets for his rubbers. It's all in pennies, so we don't need to bother about saying it's pence. Therefore that's how much he gets. So let's look at this again. P is a variable and R is a variable, because it's how many pencils he sells is P and how many rubbers he sells is R. So in fact it could be Monday he sells 12 pencils and 2 rubbers, whereas on Tuesday he could sell 50 pencils and only 1 rubber, and so on. So that's variables. A letter or a symbol that could be for many different values. Now, what is meant by this word? What is a term? Well, a term is a multiple of a variable, which might sound a bit difficult. A multiple of a variable. An example will show that it really is quite simple. T is a variable. It could represent, for example, the time it takes for me to answer this question, which might vary depending on how many mistakes I make. If I put a 5 in front of it, that's a multiple of T. 5 lots of T, or 7 lots of T. A multiple of a variable. So this is a multiple of a variable, and that is what a term is. So going back to our previous answer, this is a variable, this is a multiple of a variable, that is a term. This is a variable, this is a multiple of a variable, that is a term. Told you a term was a simple idea. I've been using this word before, expressions, but let's just make sure we're really happy with what is an expression. An expression is a collection of terms and or variables. A collection of, so that is a term, that is another term, but together it is an expression. So we might have just a variable and another variable, that's an expression. Or we might have a variable and a multiple of a variable, so that's a variable and a term, so that is an expression. Expression, expression, expression. Here's another expression where one of the pieces of information is just a number. That's an expression as well. Expressions. So let's revise what we've been talking about. Variables, terms and expressions. what are the variables in this expression? So that's an expression. The letter U is a variable, and the letter S is also a variable, because they can take a number of different values. A variable can take a number of different values. So here we have an expression. What are the terms in this expression? So this is a term because it is a multiple of a variable. This is a term because it is a multiple of a variable. Now this is in fact called a constant, because no matter what values I give to U, no matter what values I give to S, this is always going to be a constant 6. So a number on its own is called a constant. And that's been lesson 3, part 3.